Hello everybody, I will be starting in 1 minute from now. Hello everybody, hope you're doing nice. I'm back again after a few days, a few weeks actually, that I wasn't doing any streaming here because I had a lot of uh, time to work. Uh, Hi Chilton, hi my friend. Kate, can't wait to see what their rendering got us come up with this time. Let's go. Oh, thank you very much. If you don't know Chilton, he is one of the great developers that is making absolutely uh, great things for virtual production. He's doing some great things about with motion capturing. I suggest you all to try out his Glycon. Is it right, Chilton? Okay, so uh, today I'm Jeff. Yeah, it's a camera slider. It's a pretty cheap camera slider, motorized, but I bought it because I wanted to try to control it from Unity, but uh, for these few months I didn't have enough time to try it to make it work really. But I'm using here its how to say its controller, and yeah, this is a pretty cheap solution, but it's a great solution for something like this. Hi, EQs. Is that is that seed machine they use in Stranger Things behind you? I don't know if they use it in Stranger Things, but they have used it. I will show you here. You know what this lever is? This lever is a lever from Star Wars, and it was featured in Dead Star when they are about to fire. So yeah, it's something like it's a historical thing. It's one of the video mixers that were used back in from 78, I think, until late 2006. It's it's a grass wally made from grass wally group, and this was something that I have used when I was a kid, how to say, back in 90s. And yeah, it was actually, it was a digit. I think it had some digital effects that were only effects that were available to do in real time back in the days. We didn't have all digital equipment that we're using now. But this thing right now doesn't work anymore because I don't have any more uh, uh, cameras that have analog output. So it had probably a box where you could connect many inputs, and this was something like, I think, 16 inputs or more. I don't know. I should count them, and then switch from different cameras and different angles and different effects. Yeah, it, I just bought it recently because it was like on a sale uh, near my house by someone who didn't know actually what it was. So they sold me this for 140 euros. And I can see right now that these mixers actually still are sold for something like 17,000 dollars. Yeah, yeah. So I bought it because it was like uh, it was seen in Star Wars, and also because it was something that I've used before. So uh, it it's something like a nostalgia thing. So okay, yeah. Thanks for the plug. Glycon3D.com is the website. I I suggest to everyone that that wants to use some in-house cheap motion capture to try Chilton's plugin. Well, yeah, still having first VHS camera. It would be nice for me, but I never had one. So yeah, unfortunately. Okay, so today I wanted to because I was absent all these 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks and something like that. I want to show you what I was working on and what I'm actually trying to achieve. One of the things that I was showing lately was my plugin for Unity for doing chroma keying. So yeah, this was a seed that I was showing, and practically what it does, it uh, okay, I found a name for it, and I will be calling it Deckard Keyer because it has something to do with virtual production, and it has something to do with my Deckard plugin, and I made it pretty simple in this case. So it can use just webcam, simple webcam, and you can project on any plane. For example, here I have one simple plane, that where I want to project anything that comes from my camera. And in this case, I have I don't know how to show you. No, I can show you in a simple way. I can open a camera, close the webcam, because Unity has this pretty nice feature that it can use any webcam. In this case, I'm not using webcam, but I'm using a camera attached to a Blackmagic Intensity Pro. This is a capturing card that is pretty incredible for its price, because it's something like Intensity Pro. I think that it costs about $200. And okay, and for example here I can open this cam and you can see here a streaming that is coming from webcam. So at this moment we don't see anything. Let me see, but if I go in front of my camera, okay, yeah, you should see me. No, you don't see me because I have turned off this camera. Okay, close webcam, open webcam. Okay, yeah. So this should be correct thing. I'll place my sorry, you can't see everything that is happening here, but I think that I'm okay, yeah. You can see right now, because when I'm not interacting with Unity, it doesn't work. So you can see right now that I have here just this model that I have placed in my behind my green screen. So I will show you here more or less. Yeah, you can see it very well because it's over there behind the green screen, but I can just move my camera a little bit. And I have placed around this object many many lights that are controlled via DMX controllers. So what is a DMX controller? DMX is a system that that actually sends messages to lights that I use mostly in on concerts and discos and things like that, and it sends messages for a color of a light. So you can see right now, and this is object that is there in a scene. If you don't believe me, I can go there and try to, no, but no, if I'm not using Unity, it isn't see. Okay, no, never mind. I can practically control any lighting that is there that is affecting my this person. It's not a real person, it's just a doll. But I'm using this doll because I can have a simple way to show to see how my keying behaves and how my lighting behaves, because I'm here only as I'm working as a one person, and I don't have any means to try it out with actors or something like that. So I'm using this thing like to control the lighting, control the lighting, to control the keying. So yeah, if you look here, you can see that when I'm changing color, it changes the color on the face of my person and of my model, so to say. And when I go into the run, when I come to playback my scene, you will see that she will be lit from the lights that are coming from the outside of this scene. So let me just wait for a second. So when it starts, okay, and right now you can see that this works pretty well. Here there are some static lights that I can change, but if you look here, you can see that when a light passes, it will illuminate her in a perfect way. Mostly perfect. It's not perfect, absolutely, but yeah, it's a pretty good way to animate all those things. So I can define, and what I'm actually doing here is that I'm taking a few values from, I will show you here just a simple example, because I have here one object that is used, and this is this object, you will see here. Wait a second. I have to find it. Okay, yeah. You will see this sphere here. I'm using this sphere as a probe. So as the light passes, it casts images. It casts light on this sphere, and then I'm taking just a few pixels from here and there and there, and calculating that light that is cast on a sphere, and then I'm just simulating that light. I'm telling to my light to go to turn on or off, or to change a color. Your scene hierarchy stresses me out. Hey, yes, of course. My scene hierarchies are sometimes a little bit strange, and because for few reasons. There are a few reasons. One of the reasons is that I'm a single person that is developing, so I know everything where it is. Another reason is that you will probably, as most developers of Unity, are putting things under the folders, under other objects. So you are putting, if you have too many things under another object, you will have to understand that it multiplicates, it adds to a performance task. So if you have one object that is another object, and then on the another, you will have to do multiple time calculations of those transforms. It's not so simple. So using a hierarchy in Unity isn't free. It can be free in some cases, but when you have moving objects, you actually don't want to use. I'm not suggesting to use hierarchy. It's not only for Unity; it's for any program, because if you have, for example, I have here this object, and then I have its. Wait a second. I have its positional coordinates. Then I have This is another object and its positional and rotational coordinates. In everything like this, okay, it helps you to organize your project, but it requires double, 2 times more calculation to be done. And for me, sometimes this can be a really big task to do. So, for example, I'm using my Seascape system that is a city, procedural city that can be used for anything in Unity. Just to make a fast performing city. You will know that, for example, I'm not using what would you when somebody is making model, he will usually take a model, and then if there are some sub objects, it will add to this main object. You will be adding like in hierarchy. I'm actually not doing this. I'm using scripts that are working only in player, but that actually let me see if I can show you something like this. No, probably not this. Okay, yeah, on this house. I have few houses that can have some elements on the roofs, but okay, I have turned them off. So when you're using this kind of objects that are having some details like a hierarchy, they will be using much more CPU. And it's mostly on CPU going this task, because all the transforms are translated by the CPU and then sent to graphics card. So yeah, and if, for example, what I want, okay, yeah, because okay, I have here Seascape building details. I have here another Seascape panels, rooftop details. Okay, yeah, that was why it's wasn't showing. So, for example, you can see here right now that I have some details on the rooftop. Sorry, I wasn't showing. I have some details on the rooftop, but actually I'm not adding, because they are also how to say, dynamic. I'm not adding them onto a hierarchy of my building that is here, but I'm adding them onto another group that actually uses only those kind of that kind of objects. So I can turn off also my objects that I don't need. The same thing for the lights. So I'm using here lights, and they're all set like that. I wouldn't put lights never ever into a hierarchy. Maybe only into one level of hierarchy, but not onto and especially when I want to really optimize, I'm taking them out. So in this case, I'm taking out everything that could be performantly problematic. Some things are so there are some lights that are real-time lights, and I'm taking them out. And mostly some reflection probes that I don't want to be inside any hierarchy. So yeah, this is this is some way why I'm struggling, why I'm using this. Of course, when you're working in a team, you have to organize your scene in a manner that it works. You know that it's easier to work with. But when you are a single developer, you are pretty okay with just going this way until you are fine with it. So yeah, I will coming back to my chroma keying. So chroma key here. Let's turn off this chroma key because right now it's open completely. Close webcam, open webcam. You will see here that it works, but I'm using here keying profiles. It's just a material that can be used for any different chroma key. So, for example, normal without chroma keying, my image would look. Let me see how it would look. Okay, yeah, I'll turn this off to 0 and this off to 0, and this would be what comes from a camera, something like that. And of course, yeah, something like that comes out from a camera. So here I can set my keying color, but I'm not setting here normal keying color because I'm using a trick where I'm sampling a background color because I don't have a perfect green background. So as you can see here, it is mostly, you have bright areas and then you have dark areas. So I'm using a system where I can just, in my chroma key, I can just say capture background and it will capture just the background with, but there shouldn't be anybody before this in the front of a green screen. So I'm capturing this background and I'm finishing with this texture. So it's just a simple texture of my background. I will show you here, so you can be sure that it's how it looks. Yeah. So this is my background. It is pretty, as you can see. It has many imperfections, but when I use this one as a sample for my chroma keying, I can capture out extremely well all the imperfections. So this is, for example, what I can do here, okay, with this algorithm. And then, for example, you will notice that I will have always this green cast, and this is impossible to take away. Not impossible, because I can use Despill Luma and Despill Chroma. And these two parameters practically cancel all the green cast from the borders of my scene. And also from the reflections, because if I have some reflections, it will cast them out. And also I have here some tint and white balance settings, because sometimes you want to match white balance to your scene. If you're working with a real camera, you will probably know that white balance is something that for chroma keying is pretty important, but maybe after that it doesn't match completely the scene. So here I'm just toggling this, and I can, based on my lighting, I can change this as I want. And then I can change also gamma, for example, just to decide how I want this color to behave. Also, you can see I can turn off even this green background that I had, and I can even in that case I can do a pretty good keying job, but it's a little bit, you can see here it when I don't use this sampling of background, I will have this cast here. That is some difference. But if I use this, I can actually get a much better keyer, much better. So it's like, okay, you can see here, I have a much more tolerance so that I can go into fix some issues with keying. And I must say, I'm pretty yeah. Also, okay, I'm also using hybrid of two algorithms. One is my own, and another is a classical chroma keying algorithm. So I can switch between both of them. You can see here, for example, on a hand that when I switch to a classical chroma keying algorithm, it casts some effects here, while my own algorithm is a little bit different. But for example, for keying with normal, probably no. Okay. Sometimes my algorithm is better. Sometimes a classical keying algorithm is better. It all depends of your lighting and how everything works. Jeff, yeah, Unity is controlling a real-world lamp on a set. I'm using, in this case, I'm using OSC. It's called OSC. It's a free asset from an asset store, I think that I took it, and it sends OSC messages to this this program that is called DMX Control, that is being used with OSC receiver. So practically anything that goes, any OSC message that is being sent is being captured by this this program that practically converts OSC messages into DMX controller messages. So wait a second, I will device. No, wait a second, so I can show you here maybe something like that. Sorry, I'm losing it. Okay, let me see. This is our DMX control. It's a free tool, so it's you have here devices. For example, I'm using 6 lights that are RGB devices. They all have their addresses, and then I'm just using this output plugin. Sorry, it's a plugin. It's a OSC receiver, configure selected plugin, and here I have my messages. So Unity is sending me here with OSC this message. Is Unity RGB, Unity RGB, Unity RGB. Then I have for each. This is for R. For yeah, oh. So for any channel, for example here, and I can select any channel and send those messages to those channels. So it's a pretty simple way to program things. So at the end, my script is just doing few things like reading few pixels from a screen and then actually sending. You see, it reads few pixels from a screen and then sends a color, and it says color address, and color address in this case is Unity RGB, Unity RGB2, Unity RGB3, and so on. So I'm just modifying this thing to my lighting, to my setup, because if I have 4 lights, I can just set 4 lights, or I can set more lights. I will just edit this script, so it's nothing too fancy. And also because this type of a script is only for me and for my setup, so I'm not going into much of the programming. While, for example, when I'm doing Chroma key system, I really have to think about what people need, so that it can be easy to use. And this is for me, it's like 90% of job is doing an easy interface to be used. So you can create a shader that can do chroma keying, but if this shader is pretty difficult to use, so in the first version I created a shader, but the parameters and things like that were difficult to use. So you would have to change many parameters and things like that. It's a pretty complex thing. I couldn't give to someone and say, okay, use it just like that. So in this case, I'm trying to make a system that is extremely fast to use. So like, okay, I have 3 things to do, and I can immediately see a result. Of course, you will see here that I have this picture is horizontal. It's not vertical because I have turned upside down my camera. In this way I can get a better resolution, because I don't need and I also don't have large green screens. So in this case I'm just turning it up, and so I can just fix those issues. Also, another thing that I was doing in this case is a pretty interesting one. I'll just turn off a little bit lights that are illuminating my object. Oh, I think that I have lost some lighting setups there. Okay, so I have a system here. You will notice probably here. Wait a second. I have to go a few frames back and forth just to show you this. Okay, for example, this moment here, I have made also another shader specific for this one. That is practically a shader that gives me a possibility to recreate a little bit of lighting. No, I'm sorry, I don't. Let me see. I will just turn off this one for a moment. Okay, yes. So, why does it work? Okay. Okay, you can see right now, somewhere here, that it will generate some kind of lightning like this. And I'm actually, I don't know how much we can see here in Unity. So this will create a little bit of lightning that comes from real-time lights in Unity. It's not a perfect thing, you know, it's something like that is pretty simple thing, but I don't know how much you can see here because my let's turn off probably these lights. You might see, no. Okay. Yeah, probably this way you will see. Can you see this right now, how it changes there for a moment? You can see that it relightens a little bit. So right now I don't have any lights in the scene. They aren't updated in real time. But those lights that are in the Unity scene, they will be casted. They will just cast something on a virtual person. So it doesn't cast absolutely, but when you combine this thing with another system of lighting, with real lighting, you can actually create this effect. Almost that. I hope that you can see here this three-dimensionality. Yeah. So this is probably it's better seen like this. So if I change it here, you can see this three-dimensionality. So yeah, this is one of the tricks that I'm also using just to be able to feed something. Okay. I assume sawing the background wouldn't work for a moving camera. Then no, it doesn't work for a moving camera. But when you're doing mostly moving camera, you will probably have better studios and things like that. So this feature of capturing background was actually made mostly for those that are using home systems like I'm using here. So you don't have perfect lighting, you don't have perfect things. So yeah, this is mostly for static shots, even if sometimes you don't have to use them as a static shots. Like I'm showing here in my train scene, they aren't static shots. So you have enough resolution to go to zoom in and to zoom out and to move subject around. It's a Blackmagic camera. How are you connecting the camera? What signal are you sending? 444. I'm actually I'm using Blackmagic 4K Pocket. It's really great camera, but I'm actually right now outputting 704 color space, so I'm actually it should be 444, and I'm also capturing at 10-bit with my Blackmagic Intensity 4K card. But as you probably know, Blackmagic 4K doesn't have 4K output. So I'm not really even sure if it outputs full 444. This is something that should be I should check, because I have tried different ways to like capturing 8-bit epsilon UV, capturing RGB, and I'm completely unable to see any difference in Unity. So probably it could be also a problem with Unity, because maybe Unity captures everything in with its 8K. It probably captures everything in 8-bit per channel. So from this standpoint, it's a question. So I will have to understand it better. Fortunately, I'm also trying right now to implement this Chroma keying also for AV Pro Decklink. That is extremely good, powerful plugin for capturing cards from Blackmagic. And they were so kind to send me a copy just to try to integrate it and to see best workflows with them. So yeah, I'm hoping to try out also with Blackmagic. Because Blackmagic with AV Pro plugin, because it has much better performance than webcam from Unity. But you know, it's like I'm trying also to do something that is available to everyone, and as Blackmagic solution costs a little much, so it's yeah. So by default, I'm going to support webcam. So yeah, yeah. Also, I have here, if you can look here, I have here webcam support. I have render texture support, so I can set just any render texture. So if I have video or something like that, or then I can have video. So I can just drag and drop here a video player, and I will be just doing capture from a video. So it's something for if you're doing some streaming or something like that. So the or render texture if you're trying to support any other plugin for player or anything else that maybe isn't. So one of the things that is important to make it compatible with most things that exist on the market. So also for this, I will have output types, for example. One is dynamic render texture, another is asset render texture. So you can output to one or the other, so that you can maybe capture it or do things like that. My main idea was also to make this capturing plugin to work with Unity in real time, so that you can capture something, that it saves a file or saves a file locally on the camera with a time code, so that you can take that file and put it back into Unity and synchronize with my Deckard renderer. And this would be a great thing for virtual production, so that you can have a good previewing system while working in virtual production, and then having also original file that is saved locally, or that can be synchronized with Unity, so that it can be rendered later and then fixed later in production. how else are you using OSC? Have you experimented with virtual camera? Well, I was using OSC for many years, mostly for controlling Unity and for controlling my because I was working in the event industry, so I had to do some events where I could stay all the time in front of a computer to change visuals. So I was using OSC on the iPad, for example, to send messages to my main computer. One of these events was MTV Music Awards a few years ago here in Italy, and it was really great because I was going into a crowd and telling people, "Okay, change your visuals," so people could just switch on an iPad and change completely everything how it looks. So yeah, mostly for that. For virtual camera tracking, I'm using my Vive trackers and yeah, for now Vive trackers. But yeah, of course. I didn't have any experience. I must say I don't have any experience with high cost production trackers, camera trackers. So, but I think that they all suffer from the same problems of latency and uh, I, as VR trackers, maybe even more. No, I'm just saying like that. It's not. It's completely probably not true. But yeah, when I'm watching some things that were done with the tracking, you always have to have absolute control of latency. So gen looking everything. And if you're not even gen looking, you have to have some kind of time code that where you can correct your timing between the camera and uh, and your 3D. This isn't so hard when when you're working in a controlled environment. So when you're working in a studio, where you have, for example, slow-moving robotic cameras like this camera here, uh, you are probably you don't need too much of correction for latency. But one of the things that I like and what I want to do is always like making a movie, trying to come to a point where you can really make a movie just in virtual production. So with completely virtual production. So with a green screen and camera that is handheld. So for handheld camera, you are always having to compensate for this latency. And this is it's not a trivial task. I've done some experiments really a long time ago. I can show you here on my channel. It can be seen, and this was with Oculus DK one. Yeah, DK one. Let me see how it was. If I can find it on my channel. Just a moment. Sorry about that. And yeah, and I think that it worked really, really, really. At the time, it worked really well. Of course, I didn't had. I'm not sure. I don't know where it is. No, it's probably more probably on a Facebook because on a Facebook I had some. Let me see. Da, da, da. I can't find it. It's difficult to find. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, that could be a cool thing. Yeah, I'm thinking that I will be. I would like to do this thing, but problem is that I'm not. I'm actually not a Apple developer. I just have one small, uh, really old mini Mac, and I really hate developing for Apple because I'm not able to do it everything on my computer, and I'm using here a PC that is pretty powerful, and when I have to go to Mac Mini, I really lose any. And so also when you're developing something like for ARKit, you have to submit it to Apple, and you have to maintain your application. And I really am not that kind of a guy. So mostly when I'm making my applications, my plugins, I'm trying to make them really easy to use so that nobody will uh, have to ask me too many questions about how to use it. And but when you are dealing with App Store and things like that, it becomes uh, sort of uh, of thing that takes you too much time. So yeah, for this reason, I'm not trying to do it. Yeah, unfortunately, when when I will decide to do something with Apple, probably right now with M1 that I see that is pretty powerful. Maybe I could try to use it, but I can stand waiting something like 1 hour for compiling one single applications. And as I'm using mostly Apple, like one time in 3 months, I'm always turning it on, and I have to wait for it to download all the updates, and I have, it becomes too much work. Sorry, but I'm really not an Apple fan. No, it's not about being fan or not, but it's more about. Yeah. Let me see if I can find this my old video. Videos. Okay, probably I will find it. Probably. Yeah. I'm almost here. I'm almost here. Let me see. Oh, I have posted so many things. Okay, yeah, it is here. This was one of the first videos of my virtual production. So yeah, just a second. And you can see that I have compensated here really well for those fast movements between frames. I was holding a camera in one hand, and so I had a whole system that was compensating frames. So moving a camera, moving a camera feed in base of a movement that is going on. Yeah. So what else can I show you here? Yeah, I want to tell you all that I have made some great progress on my Deckard render. Thanks also to NVIDIA, because NVIDIA and Unity were so nice to send me a great, how to say, gift. And it is a Titan RTX card, so that I can, because before I was using RTX 2080. They were so nice to send me this card, because it really helps me to also to understand some problems. And what I came, it helps me to solve some problems with ray tracing, also when using Deckard, for example. Let me see if I can find here one Deckard scene. Okay, yeah. With Deckard, I can right now use RTX that I had some crashings before, but it was all absolutely due to limits of not to limits. Due to problems that our RTX technology requires much more VRAM. So I was always coming to something like 8 GB for full HD, when stacking also many effects and things like that on this. And with now that I'm having a graphic card that has 24 GB of memory, everything works perfectly. It's stable and it doesn't crash anymore. Jeff, sorry. Oh. Do you have a public list of favorite Unity store assets that you work with together with Deckard? Well, I'm working mostly, and I must say, still working with Amplify shader. I'm working with Amplify shader for years, and it's something that really pushed my possibility to program shaders, because I'm pretty good at programming shaders. I'm programming shaders from the starts of shader of HLSL and CG, and that was my main work that I was doing from 2004 or 5, yeah. But when you're working with artistic shaders, it can be really hard to implement all the things that you to do some complex things. So For example, yeah, I can show you later because right now I have uh, download opened another project. When you have to deal with shaders, you have with artistic shaders, so it's not something simple or something like that. It's these are the things where you have to tune things up, and mostly for shaders, graphic programming works really well. It works perfectly because at the end, graphics programming is like a chain. Uh, it's not something that has too many. Uh, it gets optimized on the compiler and not in the language itself. So yeah, mostly amplify shader. I've been using a lot of HX. Sorry. Uh, I've been using a lot of HX volumetric lighting, and I find it really incredible, like a tool. And then I was using a lot. Uh, yeah, there are many assets that I'm using, mostly models and things like that. Let me see here what I'm using for my haste enough. Chronic. If you're doing only real time, I would suggest you to use Chronic plugins. I have some Beautify and things like that. They are really great. For example, here I have another plugin that is great, realistic eye movements. That is good for animating characters, mostly for real time things. Then let me see if I have something. But mostly with Deckard, I'm abandoning mostly. No, it's not. I'm abandoning. Yeah, I'm mostly using those few plugins. But in latest things that I'm doing, like this project, it's a HDRP project, so most of those plugins doesn't work. And yeah, I'm just doing those. So I can show you here, for example, this new thing that I was working. Just okay, no, probably I'll just show you like this. Uh, this is, for example, all ray traced in real time on HDRP. So HDRP really has this nice reflection that you can cast, that you can work on and things like that. So I'm some of my scenes of my movie, and then when I go to render them with Deckard render, I will try to. Oh yeah, with Deckard render, this thing becomes even more exciting. So by adding over on the top all that uh, cinematographic and blur and yeah, of course I'm using right now. I intend to use Avi Pro if it's something that if you're interested in virtual production. I think that it is probably a must. Then I'm using then I'm using also, I'm making also my new small plugin. I will show you this one for a second. Just have to open it. I have to open another project. I'm making a Deckard light. That should be something like a Deckard, but it's dedicated uh, to real-time production. Only to real-time. So it uses some color science from Deckard, so that you can simulate real cameras. Oh, sorry, I have opened wrong project. So that you can simulate real cameras, and also what it does. Wait a second. This was something that I needed for my real-time presentations, so I've made it. It practically, when you're rendering, for example, a scene, you can even render it at 200 frames per second or 300 frames per second. But you're doing streaming, you actually don't want to when you're streaming, you will only have 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second, and you will be losing all that motion that exists already. So actually, my new plugin is something that is called Deckard Real Time, and it practically adds this various types of cameras or films, so that you can convert your image. It's it's a way of, but it also adds a possibility to block your frame rate to one single frame rate. So, for example, here I'm blocking always at 30 frames per second. I can block this to 2 frames per second, but it will generate all the motion blur that is in between. And it will be stable. Yeah, so I'm going to 30 frames per second so that I don't have anymore any, how to say, glitches. I can also tie it to a fixed time so that it is perfectly synchronized with a screen, for example. If I can say, okay, it's a, yeah. So if I want to, my target is 25 per second. You just, I don't know how it's seen right now on YouTube, but when I set 25, so 20, you can see that it glitches a little bit. If I set to 30, it should go almost perfectly. Yeah, but I also have here a screen capture, so it's not. But for example, my frame rate actual here is at 84, 86. And if I'm not capturing, this frame rate goes to 200. So yeah, this is something that is pretty nice thing. Oh, that should also work well for synchronizing video and audio. I'm planning some. Thanks for doing these streams. I'm a designer and gameplay programmer, but I really want to get into making shorts in Unity. Of course, you should. I think that everybody should start exploring a little bit this new real-time graphics and relying a little bit less onto how to say, to let me, no, I have to find words for what I'm trying to explain. For example, I'm from a generation that really didn't had any power to render. So we didn't had any global elimination. We didn't have any possibilities when I started. You know, like uh, we already had hours and hours to render, to wait for one single image, and this in some way helped us optimize our workflows, to find ways to simulate, to fake everything. So it's more like you approach 3D more as a painting and less as something that is that does everything for you. So you are very careful where to place lighting, where to place everything. This is probably true also for game development. When you are working in 3D, you have to be careful where you place lights, where you have to place everything. While in the film industry, you're relying mostly. It's not no, I'm not, it's not like that, but many times, not only in film industry, also in rendering industry, like architecture, visualization, you're relying on setting light that is that has enough bounces, and you are going to push up the bounces and wait for hours to render something. Probably in film industry a little bit less, but for example, in architecture or visualization, most of the people does probably that. Like, okay, we just want to crunch more numbers. So, and I think that in one moment it was like we are trying to be as realistic as possible, uh, but we want to that that software does everything for us. Not for, of course, not everybody, but I see it like a general view, and it's always like, okay, let's see what the software. So this is mostly also a problem with ray tracing that I uh, that I noted, because a few years ago when ray tracing just became a thing, real time, you know, I was saying it's impossible to do a whole ray trace scene in real time. You can do something, you can do shadows, you can do reflection, but you will. But some of my colleagues, friends said, no, it will be a help for us because we can uh, control with ray tracing. We don't have to worry too much about lighting anymore. I said, no, how you don't? You will have to worry much more about lighting. Because, for example, when I'm taking a camera, when you are doing filmmaking, you have to worry, you have to have a control of lighting. And in this way, global illumination and ray tracing are something that actually isn't of your help. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds a little bit controversial, probably, but you in a filmmaking, you want more control of what are you doing. So it's like, no, but probably I can make a parallel with game making. Like you want a cell shading. In real life, you can't have a cell shading. So you don't want a scene with cell shading to behave like a real scene. You want it to be a cartoonist. So the same thing is about movies. Movies are a vision. it's good movies are always have their style, their own style. So when you're doing a movie, you have to you don't have to rely on real physics. You have to rely on plausible physics. It's something like in a movie, like oh, they're saying, no, Star Wars are wrong because you can't hear sound in the space. Of course, you can't hear a sound in space. But can you imagine a Star Wars without a sound in the space? You can't even hear orchestra in real life or in the space. So it's not about being realistic. It's about being plausible. So coming to be plausible to be almost real, but it's yeah. I don't know what I'm saying this, but yeah, this is my opinion. Jeff, why are you laughing for my last words? Hi, Elena. Thank you for coming. Elena is from Unity. She's a dear person. Yeah, of course. It's yeah. So yeah, this was something that I'm exploring lately, and yeah, I mean these days I'm planning to, as I right now I have this RTX. I'm planning to deep dive into real ray tracing, but used with parsimony because I don't need it for everything, but I want it to enhance something that maybe otherwise isn't. Actually, today you want to use ray trace for some things like soft shadows or better ambient occlusion, but mostly for soft shadows. And I think that I will be doing one nice stream only about that because when you have soft shadows, you don't need, for example, ambient occlusion many times. For example, so you can turn off ambient occlusion and use soft shadows in many times. Then there are some things that maybe not for outdoor scenes, but for indoor scenes. Yeah. So there are some things that probably are, and then are ray tracing is perfect for reflections, but I found it to be perfect mostly for product design, for something that is almost a still image. When you're dealing with moving image, you don't have enough time to see any details. So you can just use, for example, screen space reflections, and many times it works pretty well. There are some scenes where they don't work. So yeah. Uh, so idea is always, why should I use some tech if that tech isn't needed? I should use always the technology that I need in that moment. It's a great thing to have all those possibilities to use that. So having a possibility to use ray trace, having a possibility to use soft shadows, having the possibility to use good graphics cards, and everything is a must for any professional work, but or for anything. But you have to use. It's like and those things aren't free. They aren't free in terms of performance. So you have to use them with parsimony and think about why do you want to use them. It's about communication. So you want to use some things because those things are needed. It's not like, oh, I will just use it because it's a hype. No, you are using them because you really need them, because they will add something more into your storytelling. For example, I have an idea of and that will be a great game where you can use uh, reflections to look into reflections in your environment to kill enemies, for example. So this is where you really need real-time reflection, for example, in a game. Otherwise, just to say, I was watching right now a new videos from I didn't play it still from a cyberpunk game, and I saw that actually they are pretty. There is no some when we are speaking about reflections, there is no such difference with reflections done with ray trace and without. There are some differences, of course, when you're using global illumination. So this is where we actually uh, need correct reflection, where we need ray tracing. I have few months ago, I have posted one of my videos on Twitter where somebody said, no, this isn't correct reflection. This reflection isn't correct because reflection should be uh, blurry. And in that case, what actually happens was that as the camera has a depth of field and it reflects from this surface, any reflection that if my camera doesn't have any depth of field like this one has, any reflection from this surface will be blurred or will be in a focus, but if my surface isn't, it will be. You can see right now that reflection is in the focus, but my surface isn't on the focus. If I change here, that no, I can change this, but if and no, I can probably change manually. Okay, yeah, you will see that the reflection becomes completely blurred. So there are some things that many times somebody would notice like wrong, but they actually right. So yeah, this is something that happens in things, and it happens also to me that I'm looking at some image, really real photography, and saying, no, this can't be true. This isn't true. This is a wrong perspective. But all the filmmaking, when we're speaking about filmmaking, is faking. So you have to understand this thing a lot. Uh, well, not to understand. Probably everybody understands that filmmaking is a faking, but uh, you have to enter into a mind that you are doing some faking. You know, like I will fake. You have to decide to accept this thing. Uh, where does Decker fit in ray tracing workflow? Oh, it fits everywhere. It's everywhere. It just works like I have just showed. Let me see. I can show you here right now. Let me see the deck. Sorry, I have to find my file. Yeah, this one. You can. Some things aren't, you know, like as I said, ray tracing is a costly process. So you can do it, but it doesn't come without a cost. So if you are doing like filmmaking and things like that, you will have you can dedicate something to directly to ray tracing. Like for example, in this scene, I'm dedicating here to ray tracing just all those. I don't know how much we can see here. Let me see right now. Like you see these internal reflections, refractions, you know, and things like that. Okay, but when you do all those things, for example, you are sacrificing many other things because of not only performance, but because of also impossibility. For example, to do depth of field in the between of a transparent surface. This can be with a Deckard. You can just use it and just okay. Yeah, just you see that all those reflections and refractions will be more precise and more stable because yeah, I'll show here one simple thing that probably explains it better. Timeline. Okay, look at this. Look at the blooming, for example. You can see that it, especially here, for example, you can see that it shimmers. That you have, for example, all those anti-aliasing issues here. So these are some simple things that aren't only problem of ray tracing. This is the problem of real-time graphics. So you can always try to eliminate. So you can go up in resolution, then resize, and so on. But it isn't. When you're dealing with movies, it isn't a solution because you want to have a perfect. So can you see here right now? This is the same scene of before, but you can see that there is no any nasty shimmering. And everything is more soft, more how to say, fluid. I'm not sure if this can be seen so well on YouTube, you know, but I can show you right again here. Let me see. Look at this. Well, this counts only when you are right. With offline radio, I'm not worried about performance. Yeah, I just want it to look the best with least amount. Of course, also that one. Yeah, the second one it was just rendered with Deckard. You know, this one is that one rendered with Deckard. So it's like you have full full depth of field, full blur, correct blur on also on surface, on reflections and everything. So it's, no, probably. Listen, yeah, I couldn't see the problem with the first. Okay, yeah, but it's something that many people doesn't see. If you're not, if you don't have a trained eye to look at the few things that are like important, you are you maybe aren't noticing them as a problem. You know, it's like they are not a problem, but you will see your mind will perceive them as a fake. So there is different way of looking at a movie and looking at a video game. So in video game you have completely different approach to look at it. You know, video game you want more frames. Why do you want more frames? Because you have need to do more action, or you want more frames because image becomes unstable and becomes how to say not too realistic, you know. But mostly because you want to act as immediately as possible. So, but in the movie, this thing you actually don't want to have too many frames, because when you have too many frames, you will end up into having something that looks unnatural, not unnatural. It looks too much unnatural, but it doesn't look exciting. It's like watching a TV. You know, I don't know if you can perceive a difference. No, you probably, and everybody probably perceives the difference when watching a TV, something that is a TV show that is 60 frames per second or 50 frames per second, and that looks too sharp, too nice, too how to say, too real, but as it isn't real, you know. When we are watching a movie, we have to be transported into another world, and yeah, watch a cheap drama, cheap series, you know, from 80s, and look how movies are made from the 80s, even. So 80s movie will transport you into it, but when you watch something that is like cheap television series, you will see that uh, it doesn't work. And even acting becomes much more or less plausible, and even if it's more real, but we don't want a reality in a movie. We want because we have reality shows, but a movie isn't reality show, so it's something else, I think. Yeah, this is something that probably goes much more further, and is somewhat cultural thing. So yeah, game is like 240 frames per second, great for sports, for game sports, you know. But when we speak about story, probably it's not like that. Right, so 24 frames looks more illustrated or stylistic compared. I think that it does, you know. It's not about more illustrated. How to say, it's uh, it's more familiar. It's more familiar for us to look at that way, like movies. We are watching movies at 24 frames per second for how many years from existence of a movie, almost, you know, from existence of a sound movie. So it's a normal thing. It's how to say, it's we perceive it like a high quality, and for a movie when you don't have to interact, it works. It works perfectly because you can make much more motion. For example, right now, Ugly, how was it? Made this movie Gemini, I think it was, and this movie was all about. It used, I think, 60 frames per second. There were versions of a movie that were made in 60 frames per second, and other that wasn't because that wasn't projected in that frame rate because movie theaters weren't uh, uh, capable of uh, of of doing it, you know. So at the end, those that watched 24 frames per second versions uh, had a much better opinion of a movie than those that watched 60 frames per second. The same goes also for Hobbit, I think. But Hobbit, I think that it was like 48. If I'm not wrong, but probably I'm wrong. I would have to look into this. I'm really not. Hobbit movie frame rate. Let me see. Yeah, 48, 48 frames per second. Hobbit movie was. So yeah, and this was Gemini movie. Let me see, Gemini movie frame rate. Oh no, Gemini. Sorry, Gemini was 120 frames per. Oh yeah, many critics said that it looked faked, even if everything there was real, you know. But it was too real for to be defined as real. Yeah, I know it's an absurd thing. Is HDRP your preferred pipeline for Decker now? Not still, but yeah, this was also one of the things that I wanted to speak today because if you are using HDRP, if you want to use ray trace, no, if you are using HDRP, I'm really extremely found how it develops right now. So uh, if you want to start anything before with any older version of HDRP, don't start. Start with 2020. Wait a second. I'm sorry. I'm always forgetting. Yeah. Use 2020.2 beta. Okay. So, and then install a version of HDRP 10. So this is the most stable version. It overcomes some of the biggest problems of HDRP. And it also adds some nice things, really nice things. So yeah, we are coming. Yeah, it's also much more stable. We aren't still in a final stability version when we are speaking about RTX, but we are close. Right now, it can be used for production really well. It can be used with few crashes here and there, but I think that they are. I assume that with 2022 final or 20.3 will be at a good point of using it really. I'm just hoping that there will not be too many changes to our shading system because right now when you are upgrading you have to maybe upgrade your shaders. So right now I'm switching my movie to 2020.20 beta, and most of the things works, but some shaders doesn't. So I will have to find a solution. For now, I wasn't being able to do it, but yeah, I think that it should be pretty. Yeah, so and also there are fixed some problems with simple memory leakages. There weren't really big memory leakages, but there were enough to crash your Unity in some cases, you know. So yeah, there were significant bug fixes and significant. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Jeff. So yeah, I was recruited to start it with HDRP, but yeah, for some reasons it is no, it is good system, but it has to mature, has to gain some maturity. But I think that it will be, it at this moment it gains starts gaining it, especially RTX mode. So I don't know if there is anything else that I could tell you. If there is anything that you want to ask, please feel free to do so. And yeah, if there isn't anything, I will be going to sleep a little bit. Thank you for coming, Jeff, and thank you everybody who is here to ask thing. I hope that I can. I would like to have even more viewers so that we can maybe start some discussions and bring some ideas together. And it's really nice. And thank you very much. Uh, and if you like these streams, please like them and share them, maybe, because I'm hoping to spread knowledge as possible. So but also to understand what is something that you would like to hear and what you are interested in. You know, because uh, I'm a pretty uh, auto-referencing myself. So, for example, I have made many few plugins for Unity and things like that, and few demos but I'm always doing something that is like just for me. I made Seascape because I needed to. I had to make uh, cities in a fast way. I have made VR Panorama because at that time it was impossible to make any 360 video for virtual reality. I have made Decker because there wasn't something like that. So, but it was for my needs, and I actually didn't make anything of this to be like sold. I made those things to just for me to use them. So yeah, also this Chroma keying system that it is mostly for me. But I would like to know what you guys think and what you want, what you're expecting uh, from a tech, and what are other views. So yeah, this is everything also pretty new for me, and I hope that I hope that we can learn together. Some always. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, I will be here still a few minutes, and you can ask something. Otherwise, I'm sending you a big hug, and yeah, please stay safe and don't expose yourself because I have too many friends right now uh, that are that aren't well from COVID and that are also in the hospital, and I hope that we are all safe. Thank you very much. Bye. And ask something if you want. I will be here still. Oh, sorry, guys. I was saying, yeah, this is, yeah, I will try to implement this, but at the moment it looks pretty complex thing to do, but I will try to implement this. And yeah, at the moment I have added one new free feature that maybe is interesting, and it could be a good thing. I could probably pair it with that one thing that you can render, and when you're using this timeline, you can render from certain frame to certain frame, just range. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you, Jeff. Bye bye.